This is Alexandra Meadors of galacticconnection.com, and today is Tuesday. Oh my God, Tuesday, the 24th of February, 2015. And wow, I just want to tell everybody, I know I've already done 2 series with Tory Smith, but because he and I connected this weekend, I decided to bring him on for kind of a last minute, really urgent message. I feel like we both have some serious information to bring forth. There are so many changes going on the planet right now. And I know that also because of not only what's going on in my world, but also the emails that I'm receiving from a lot of you out there. So there is some serious activity. I'd like to share that with you and just give everybody a heads up as much as possible. Tory has a lot of really pertinent information, so we're all needing to be aware. I really do feel, I think Tory feels the same way, we're really getting to the final hour here. And so I think everyone might remember Tory Smith, but you can always reach him at his website, which is readmydna.wordpress.com. He is just a master at scanning people's DNA and providing them an amazing report. However, that is on hold right now because of the immense amount of light work that Tory is doing. He is not only under just incredible attack right now at this hour especially, but he just doesn't have it in him at this time to be doing a lot of these DNA reports. And they are truly a gift from God. They're free. He doesn't charge you for them, and it takes him up to 3 hours to do each one. So just kind of bear with him and back off for a while, give him some of the space that he really needs. And for those of you that didn't hear the other 2 interviews, please make sure you catch them on the other side because they are important to get the whole story here. Tory is an amazing light warrior, and I just know that. I know that I have hung out with him in other lifetimes. We have discussed too many things that are way too synchronous, huh, Tory? And
yeah.
Very much so. And he is truly, without a doubt, one of the most dedicated healers I think I've ever met in my entire life. So much so that his theme of what he claims to be a survivor really holds water. He has already apparently almost died 3 times this week because of the kind of work that he is up against and the intense amount of darkness and dark beings that are really trying to exit at this final hour. So let's go ahead and get started. If you'd like to read more about Tory and his background and all of the wonderful, amazing things that he does and brings forth, again, reach him at his website, which is readmydna.wordpress.com. So, hey, Tory, I know it's been a tough day for you. I'm so sorry.
This whole week has just been really awful.
I'm so sorry.
But a lot of it's over. And, once I call the dark side, the child traffickers, the Illuminati, New World Order, whatever it is you want to call them, heaven says they're suffocating right now. And because I did a lot of communication today. I haven't really, mostly this week, I wasn't able to read this week. And, which I'd like to point out, I don't call the readings free because they're not free to me. It takes a huge amount of labor time to do them.
Correct.
And I call them gifted because they're a gift from God.
Yes.
And that's one of the things they don't want me to do because originally when the Anunnaki stripped our DNA down to 2 strands from 1 million-ish, it really blocked our ability to see our past, to see who we are, to remember things, to be able to, there's so many things we can do when we're fully conscious, which means having all your strands activated.
Yes.
Anyone can talk to heaven. Actually, anyone can talk to heaven, even if you can't hear them. All you have to do, is call, sit down and call. If you want to talk to somebody, it's very easy.
Exactly.
And one of the biggest things I've asked about, because before I go into start explaining, some of the things that have happened this week, I don't want to terrify everybody. And I asked, well, there's people that, I know that there's people that want to get involved and they want to help, but they don't want to have a bunch of dark entity reptilians and zetas and, amphibians showing up in the house and firing weapons at you. And I asked, I said, well, because I know that when you talk directly to God, that you get like a privacy bubble around you. And you don't need to hold your hands like this together. It's okay. God doesn't need us to have us on our knees. You sit in a chair and be comfortable is, I think, the best way. Or during meditation. or you could actually go out of body, bilocate in meditation, and go to the temples and talk to God yourself and one-on-one in person. But to ask God, and well, there's a couple of ways people like to do it. One is the law of attraction way, and that's to be grateful for something that's already done. And I've been saying a lot of that this week. Thank you for arresting these people. Thank you for removing them from our society. Thank you for bringing child trafficking to an end. Thank you for bringing human sacrifices to an end. And because they don't want to give it up. They don't want to give it up. They don't realize that they had, or that they have no support from non-physical entities the way they used to. They refuse to believe it, like Satan, Lucifer, Baphomet, Anu, Set, Il. There were 1,738 of these really gnarly Draco reptilians from the Draconis, Alpha Draconis. There's a whole bunch of star systems over there. Alpha, Sigma, Gamma, Thuban. I'm kind of out of it right now. I probably can't pull them off of my head. But anyway, a lot of them were Alpha and Eta Draconis are the two major star systems where the really gnarly dudes came from. Well, me and 14 other people, God gave us the ability to send these entities into the light. And basically what it was is they would come in. Well, I know one guy that would go down into the depths in the underground caverns and stuff and go get them. I thought, oh my God, you're crazy. You're never going to see me going down there. Because I would just send them energy just to make them really angry and make them come to me, because I'm going to do all this stuff in my house. There's no way I'm going down there in the cave, in a dark cave. I have enough trouble as it is here. But what we do is with 0 point energy, first we would transfigure them, transmute their energy. And like Satan would come in, and this didn't happen just all at once. It's not like we just snapped our fingers and poof, it's done. But we, day by day, as they would come in, we would take more of their energy. Well, God would take their energy. It would go right up, and they would lose a little bit. And finally, they would get to the point where they were so weak that we could freeze them, arrest them, and then give them one super blast. And I've only talked to one other of the 14 of us, so I don't really know how everybody else is doing it. One super blast, and God just took them, and they're gone. Awesome. And this happened in 2012, in the summer of 2012, and then it followed up in the summer of 2013, because Lucifer and Satan were taken in September 2013.
I remember that. There were like 1 million reptilians, too, that were escorted off-world, too, at that time, right?
Well, there were so many. And like, there are these one entities, and see, I don't know if I'm really calling them right. I call them Draco reptilian spirits.
Okay.
Because they were spirits, and I always said, well, to me, they kind of look like the flying witches in Harry Potter, because, when the witch would land, they would, poof, look like a regular human, but when they were flying around, they looked like a black cloud. And they weren't so tattered. These entities, there were like somewhere between 500 and 600 million of them just for the United States alone. And they were the same ones that worked with Adolf Hitler. Hitler would tell his people, you have to accept the demon seed. And once somebody said that, these entities would jump into their body. Wow. And a lot of the times, like with police officers, there would be more than one, because some people have a really strong will, and it takes a lot to take them down. Yeah. But they had at least one for every American. And I forget, I think I sent 17.5 million of those. Well, I froze them, and God took them into the light. It's just easier to say I did it because, it's just a simple way. I don't mean that egoically.
Yeah, no, of course.
This is what I did for months. It was just, and then they would come in groups. Sometimes they'd jump in you, and that's like, ugh. So they went. And then there were other beings that live here that weren't even the slightest bit human and really didn't have a lot of interaction with society because, they look like big, ugly reptilians. And the funny thing is when you see a galactic reptilian, they don't look the slightest bit intimidating at all. And it's funny how you could look at a reptile. I think of the Eta Draconians. I was on the ship once, and the guy looked like an alligator with a short snout, wearing a purple robe, and he was like green but glowing white light, and he was pretty awesome. And I gave him a big hug, and I wasn't even the slightest bit. Well, actually, though, in the Eta Orpheus, there's a star system called Eta Orpheus, or Eta Orpheus. When they came in their ship, they showed themselves to me, and I knew they were galactic, but I did have a reaction, because that was when I was getting beaten up and raped a lot, but they were putting snakes in my body and all that other stuff. So when I saw one, I didn't see the galactic aspect of them right away. It took me about 5-6 minutes to calm down. But once we started talking, then it was, okay. But yeah, like this week, yesterday, I was watching a cartoon, and there was in one of the scenes, an alligator jumped up on a golf cart, and I screamed. I'm like, ah!
A little too close to home, huh?
These ones that came in this week were really scary because what happened was, I can just give you the short aspect of it. Bush and Cheney hired a mercenary army, an army for one purpose, assassin, because they were assassins. And they had these weapons, and they were from Bellatrix.
Now, wait a minute, before you say that, when did this go down?
I don't know when they hired them.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure Tuesdays when it, see, I don't really know. I haven't really had, because today is really like the first day I've had my head clear. And yesterday and Saturday, I started to see what was going on. You know, and when the Galactics are coming down and arresting people and taking them up, that's one of the biggest indicators, because usually when they leave, they usually go sideways. Like if they leave on their own, they go sideways or they go down. Or a lot of times after we do our energy work on them, I ask Mother God. Mother God has this huge sword of justice. It's never used for violent purposes, but she'll do what's called do a sweep. And she'll just wave her sword and she'll sweep the house and they go out sideways. But when the Galactics take them away, when they arrest them, they're pulled straight up.
Yes.
They teleport them up.
I've seen that.
And that's the way, because those other ones, the 300,000, they went out last year too. But I'm pretty sure they had physical bodies. And I don't know how this works, because it's in a slightly different dimension. And, you know, because I live in a really small house. I think the upstairs is like maybe 950, let's say 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
And like the kitchen, small kitchen, 16 by 17. Okay. Sometimes there's 75 people here, right in front of me. You know, and obviously the wall is only, 8 feet away.
Right.
And so since it's on a different dimension, it's almost like, well, it is like everything kind of disappears. The house, the yard, the retainer wall, the garage, and I go up to a different level. I go to their level, and then I can see them. And that happened a lot, because the main dudes of this army, there was 296 of them.
Today?
And the
this
main
weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they were the ones that really came in on Tuesday, because that's when the real intense pain started. And that's when I started complaining, because I was doubling over.
That's when I talked to you last, right?
What?
Wasn't that when I talked to you and you were just, I mean, you were literally almost like groaning. You were in so much pain.
Oh, yeah, because I normally
Tuesday?
scream on pain, but I did this week.
Well, don't you also think, they say there's like a 3.5 dimension?
I don't know. Something
in between the dimensions, even.
Well, I was watching David Icke this weekend on Sunday. I watched a couple of his videos, the newscasts, or whatever he calls them, and he was explaining just that. And you know what? I was so like just sitting there in a daze that a lot of it just kind of went over my head. But he was explaining how they show up and this and that, because he's got a really good take on it. Because he deals with them differently than I do. Because when I was exposed to child trafficking, and I had made a couple friends that were killed by the same man who tried to kill me 13 times. Well, technically he did kill me 13 times. I mean, I was out of my body. Mother God had to put me back in my body, and I started breathing again.
It's crazy.
Named John Brennan, the director of the CIA. And so, but what happened is, you know, because in the beginning, I was talking to so many people in heaven, and when somebody that would die, I would write something really nice to them. And when Whitney Houston died, and almost as soon as she died, everybody was showing these most horrible pictures of her, you know, because it wasn't really her fault that she got on the drugs. And that was like, there was a lot of mind control, and they did a lot of pain, the same stuff they're doing to me and Michael Jackson. And well, the Archons were the ones, Robin Williams never had a suicidal thought of his own. Those were programmed into his mind by the Archons. They have a suicide. I've been through it. I know how it is. It's horrible.
Yes.
I begged God to kill me one time.
Yes.
And Mother God's like, no, heaven's not ready for you. I'm like,
okay. You know what, Tory? I want to interject there. As everyone knows, Galactic Connection is very renowned for our implant removal process. And one of the things that I've learned over the course of the last couple of years is these implants, these bioetheric ones, the really heavy-duty ones that are wrapped around all the organs, and we've had them for a long time. And they literally transmit and receive data from the mother matrix, which they basically told me was Medusa, okay? And what happens is if, first of all, if they're not actually removed, then the individual is offline, but all it takes is just them getting you online, and you will begin to transmit and receive that data from that, whatever you want to call it, the black box, Medusa, the matrix, whatever you want to refer to it as. And what I've found is that for those that have removed them, what ends up happening is the people that are still implanted, they will receive data to influence or impede the ones that are either about to get their implants out, or once they've had them out, then those that don't have them out really can feel the vibrational difference, and they can't communicate. They can't influence you the way they used to. And so it irritates them. And you just made a really good point, which is you were talking about the implanting of the chips. And this is why a lot of people are writing into me now and saying, God, I just had a couple more DARPA chips removed. I just had this chip removed. And they're so desperate to try to control us that they're bombarding us with this technology right now. I mean, it's ridiculous. And you've noticed that too, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because see, I went through a period where there wasn't, I told you in person that I was being raped a lot, and then suddenly it came to an end, although I can't remember when. And then months went by, let's say 9 or 10 months went by, and then all of a sudden at the end of last year, it started happening again. And I don't know, I heard that something they could recalibrate or whatever, but they had this technology where they could basically do it to anybody. And that's the same way that they use these weapons. Like, they come in and they hold a gun to your head. See, my head's still hot because they had one on me. I mean, I was losing blood out of my nose for right around an hour. And I lost a lot of blood. And that was probably the fifth time this week. I had to lose a quart of blood this week, easy. And that was from the thing. And then they used another weapon on my knee. And then the other weapons, the groin ones, I mean, we were blowing them up, but they were just bringing them in over and over again. We were just bringing them in. So I just kept saying thank you, God, for destroying their weapons. And
I was blown away when you said that, because I've been around a couple friends that have said, my God, Alexandra, your whole face is turning red. And I broke into a sweat, and I wasn't having any kind of, the first thing people are going to think of is that, you're having hot flashes. And that wasn't it at all. You can tell the difference between a hot flash and this. There was so much heat coming out of my head. I thought my head was going to burst. And this has been going on now very heavily for the last 6 months. I didn't really put the two together that had anything to do with what you were talking about. But now I realize it does.
Yeah, that was the way with me too in the beginning, because, when this whole thing started, I didn't really even believe that Satan existed. So I was one of those people. That's what Sylvia Brown used to say. Oh, the devil is just imaginary. There's no such thing as hell. This is hell. There's heaven and hell, and we're in hell. And I went through a, very la-ti-da, well, nothing can really hurt me attitude for a really long time. And so it took me an extra time to wake up and see what was going on.
Right.
But I went through experiencing it first. And then because, I kept asking the universe for information, a lot of times I would just be jumping around on the internet, and I would all of a sudden read something and say, oh my God, that's it. That's what they're doing to me. Because this is just happening to everybody. Not everybody, but a lot of people. But they're just absolutely desperate, I think, to hold on control. And they just know it's not going to happen. That's why they're pulling out all the stops and doing everything that they can.
Well, the other thing you just said was, why wouldn't you believe that there is a Satan when we're creator gods? So if they basically created up a story that there was a Satan or a Lucifer or whatever in the very beginning, they would know that we would create that, which they described. Do you know what I mean? That's the way this matrix works. They give us colors, they give us shapes, and they give us vibrations, so that they give us that influence. So we create that which they want us to create.
Yeah, and then our fear gives them so much power.
Exactly.
because they weren't anywhere near powerful like 10, 20, 30,000 years ago. Because I think when I was reading the DNA, I think Satan was like 46 million years old.
Whoa.
And there were a lot of them. And the Draco attached to Bush Sr. was 38.7 million years old. And Elizabeth Windsor and her husband, from the royalty, what they call themselves, royalty in England. Boy, she was pissed off when we got rid of her Draco. Like, she was really upset.
I had no idea that they were that old. And the other reason I want everyone to know that I called this interview is I have some amazing news that is lined up with Tory. Now, Tory told me, this is like how many episodes this week that you've had radical nosebleeds?
Probably 4 or 5.
Okay, so 4 or 5 times this week. Now, I want you to understand, I haven't told you this. I have a very dear friend, Pablo, who also works on our website as well. And Pablo called me on Thursday. He was freaked out because he had to call the fire station to come out because there was this very weird, wispy, black soot kind of smoke that was in his apartment. And he woke up the next morning in a pool of blood, severe nosebleed. And it was really weird. He says, I haven't had that happen in a really long time. He said that the pressure was back here, right around this area right here. And he kept rubbing it because it was so uncomfortable. And I said, oh my God, they've implanted you. They've either implanted you or there's some sort of weapon that they're using on you. Okay, the next day after that happened to him, we are working on an algorithmic code with Steve to assist him. And it turns out that triggered, this is so amazing, that triggered the intense reaction of his body to propel a specific type of implant. And we've been, I'm working with my doc friend who's a quantum homeopath. And we've been playing around with some stuff. Anyway, the long and the short of it is, he nailed it. He got just the algorithmic code, and it was basically based on our desire, Tory, to be possessed. Our desire. Okay? So there's a frequency attached to our desire to be possessed. So when he started working with Steve on this, Steve he didn't feel really, really well. He went to sleep. He got up the next morning and he was throwing up blood. And he was having horrible nosebleeds, like you're discussing. And I got to share this because I'm really wondering if this has ever happened to you before. He ran to the bathroom. He didn't make it to the toilet. I'm getting a little graphic here, but there's a purpose, guys. And he ended up throwing up a rectangular box about like this big. It was Jell-O, kind of mold, and there were 3 what he would describe as bottle caps on top.
Wow.
Okay, now it wasn't physical as in like a piece of furniture, but what I ended up being told by Father God was that when they shoot you with these frequencies, the body responds by materializing it in the body. It's like another piece of it. And in his particular case, he materialized it right around his thymus. And then, he threw up, he's been throwing up blood a lot, and he's getting a lot better now, but it was so intense, and he was throwing up fibers and all kinds of stuff. Like, that is not normal.
Okay, it's the same team. The same team.
I just about freaked, and he's doing a lot better now, but he literally passed this really terrible implant that's been with him for a very long time.
Wow.
So, and it was because of this specific frequency. Because we're kind of messing around with stuff like that right now. I don't know, has that ever happened to you? Because apparently our bodies, the way we react to certain frequencies or even programs that they create is we manifest them physically in our bodies.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't take long. But see, for me, since I have such a huge current of 0 point energy flowing through me, they can't hold. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I connect to all the reptilians that were attached to me while I was sleeping and stole energy from me. And I ask God to take that energy from them and send it into the light.
Cool.
Because I don't want that back after spending them.
Yeah.
And then we give them blasts of sacred fire. And then I go and I have my angel cards and I do because it's always the solar plexus chakra and belly. Mm-hmm. And I do my cards and my crystals, and I hold that stuff in my orgone generator, and then I hold my cloud buster, and I have it touch the top crystal to my head, and I basically just hug the cloud buster.
Right.
Well, sometimes I do that more than once a day. But yeah, there's so much that can happen to people that are aware of what's going on.
Well, you also mentioned something about the reptilians. I wanted to share this with you as well. This came in today from my friend Ruth. She lives on the other side of the world. I think she lives in Greece. But anyway, she wanted me to share this. She was at work, and she was walking down the hallway, and she ran into 6 reptilians, and they were gigantic. I mean, just massive. And she knew right away they were not here to fight her. They were not here to attack her. They were actually here to assist her. And when she asked them, "Why are you here?" they said, "We're here to help you take down the technology." And this went down at the same time that you gave me your message. And she said it was very successful. There were 6 of them, that this was planned, that apparently the benevolent reptilians are now returning to get this operation done to bring all the technology down.
It's quite possible. I know that the members of the Procyon team were the ones that arrested the ones here. Because I don't think, because of my reactions that I've had, and I don't think that the Galactic reptilians are going to come around until after the disclosure for me, because I need to have serious healing done. But they have come in my past, but just it's too much, especially right during the attacks.
Yeah.
It's too much for me. But the ones that came in, there was a team of 13, and they were the leaders of these almost 300. And they were like between 7 and 8 foot tall. And they're just really, it's like watching a horror movie. It's just like looking at evil. And you're just like, ugh. And then they stink. You can smell them 20 feet away. Easy.
That's a trip.
I don't know what it is about their smell. I've told the reptilians at least 20,000 times that they need to take a bath. Especially if they're going to sneak up on somebody.
They need to take a bath.
Oh my God. But,
well, don't you think they smell because all they eat is flesh?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And they like to live in that's why they call the bad ones sewer lizards. Not galactic reptilians, but because they smell like rotting corpses and sewage.
Oh,
and that's basically exactly what they smell like. And it's even worse right after they've eaten a human. And so, because then they've got the blood of the human flowing through them, they kind of sweating human blood out of their pores.
Well,
and it's gnarly.
Don't you agree that, I mean, things are really stepped up. I mean, I got another phone call this weekend from a guy who is basically, he knows that he's here as what he calls an Archon Buster. Okay? And he also was visited, and he said it was one of the nastiest, darkest beings he's ever had to come in contact with to convert, and, same thing as what you do, what I do. And he said that it was very successful. He removed him from the planet. And he was told that this was someone who was a very, very major player politically, and that he was taken out. So just in that small little amount of time, look how many of us are experiencing some very heavy duty, experiences, I guess, with dark beings right now. I mean, it's at an all-time high. Can you tell everybody what you told me as far as what you're now seeing and why you feel that represents how desperate they're getting?
How do you mean?
Well, you were talking about who actually has been coming in now.
Oh, okay. Well, I see what you mean. Yeah, because you know what? It's been team after team after team, and there's been some things I've never seen before. I mean, sometimes, well, it usually takes place because I go out during the day, and then I come back usually around 4, 5, or 6 o'clock. They're always waiting for me at home, and then they're there with the weapons. So it's always the same thing. I bind all of you in the name of Father God, and then boom, they're frozen. Or you can say Mother God. I wouldn't say Jesus Christ's name anymore because I think that they picked up on frequencies, and Jesus doesn't really have dominion over the reptilians. I would just go straight to Mother and Father God, and you know, and then because the ascended masters, I mean, I love them dearly, but the energy of Father God works the best if you want to freeze them.
Go to the top, right?
Yeah, and then what I do is I say I place a band around you to pull you in, and if there's a group of like 50 of them. It's like a rubber band, sort of. I like to use golden light band, and then it pulls them in. Like, well, you know, when you're buying herbs and vegetables, like when you buy a thing of parsley, there can be 100 stalks of parsley, but there's a rubber band around it, and it's super tight, it's holding them all super tight.
Sure.
That's what that does. And then what I do is I hold my hands up, and Father God sends the energy through me, and it blows up their weapons. And then we wait a second or two, and then we go back to 0 point, and then it powers the sacred fire. And then we do this thing, and Father God controls my hands, and then I throw a big ball of sacred fire on them, and it just goes right through them and sets them on fire. And then I'll do that as many times as God wants me to. Sometimes it's only 3 times. Other times it's 7 or 8, depending on who's here. Like Bush and Cheney were here on Sunday morning. But the one thing that was really different this time that's never happened before, is the frequency that they've come in and the people that are coming in. Because it's not just the dark entity reptilians that are coming in, it's also just members of the military. And there was a group of military, they were like boys. They were like 19, 20 years old boys. It was the first trip they ever made.
Wow.
And so, but they, as soon as one would leave, and then the biggest thing that was different is when we would blow up the weapons, they would all drop. That's the first time this has happened, and that's this weekend. All the reptilians would be laying on the floor like they were stunned, and they all passed out. And then when we blasted them with sacred fire, their bodies would start vibrating on the floor.
Wow. And
then usually I'm burnt out, so I just left them, you know, because I'm at the point now where I almost don't care because I've just done this thousands and thousands of times, and it's just like, you know, I had 30. Well, March will be month 39 for me.
Wow.
39th month of every single day dealing with these child trafficking dark entity reptilians. Good. 39 months.
Good God.
Okay. But that was really different, and that gave me a glimmer of hope. And then a funny thing that happened was, well, I guess that they can't do it because heaven says they can't do it, so I actually lied to them. But, well, not really, because I told the young boys, I said, you know, they use this technology so that you can go have sex with supermodels. That's all they basically do with this technology. I said, you see how they brought you here in my home to use these weapons against me? Normally, they just use them for sex. And they don't do it, nor they spend most of their time going around having sex with, well, you should have heard them. They were all like, oh my God, oh my God. They all just started chattering with each other, and they were going nuts. And then heaven told me later, they haven't shut up about it since.
Wow.
But I understand that since the vibration has gone up, they can't rape anybody anymore. That's why they can't rape me and other people anymore. I'd like to talk to other people. So, and then it was this morning. No, I'm sorry. It's Sunday morning, because Sunday morning I got up about 4:30, and it was a lot. And the assassin team came in, and what really freaked me out about them is they brought a couple of Zeta Reticulans with them, and I thought, well, they were all gone. So to me, that's really confusing because so many, almost all of them literally have been removed from our solar system. And here's like a real tall one. He must have been about 8 feet tall and real skinny. Not a tall white. He was gray. But, you know, they're just super horrible. I just hate them so much.
Yeah.
And he was doing some other things on me all week, and I kept popping up. I thought, well, it can't. You know, you say it can't be. I'm seeing this, and it can't be. I'm kind of like, what the hell am I saying it can't be? All this stuff that I've been through. Hundreds of thousands of people that are not human, and here I'm selling myself after 38 months. Oh, it can't be.
Tory, tell the audience about the Zeta Reticuli, because from what I've read, they're just some of the cruelest, darkest, nastiest.
Yes, well, if I understand right, I can't remember all these statistics off the top of my head, but there's around 50. It's either like 53 or 56 different types of insectians in our solar system. Not the universe, our solar system.
Right.
And a lot of them, there's two planets, Zeta Reticuli and Zeta 2 Reticuli. And they are beings, very advanced beings. And then these, well, you can just Google image for archons or zetas and see what they look like. It's the most common, the black eyes, the gray skin. Some of them are short, some of them are tall, some of them are orange, white, light gray. They range from, like 3 foot tall to up to maybe 9 feet tall.
Yeah, they can be taller, definitely.
Yeah, the real tall and skinny ones. They're the worst ones.
And
they're
long
old.
dangling arms.
Yeah, they're like the two that created HIV. They were just really, really mean. But see, their whole gig was that, and this is why I don't mean to say they're stupid and I'm smarter than them, but they were working for tens of thousands of years, harvesting humans to create a human Zeta hybrid, because they were, first, if I don't really know all the details, but it doesn't seem like they die like we do, because I know some of them that are like 10 to 12,000 years old. Wow. As they are. Okay, and so they're afraid that when they die, they won't reincarnate, that they'll cease to exist. And I kept telling them over and over again, well, if you just move into the light, Father and Mother God would give you new bodies and you'd have it and you'd be gone. You wouldn't even have to spend 10,000 years in that stupid laboratory trying to get all this stuff done. You get out of it like next week.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we don't do that. Like, oh, great. So, and then there's the mantids that look, and I thought they were nice because, a lot of times when this all happened, they'd come in and they're all like very polite and everything. And then, they try to kill you. And then it's really weird because when the mantids, they look like praying mantis sometimes. There's a variety in there. I haven't had time to research it, but they also like to have sex with humans. And that's a real mind trip, Alexandra. It's a real mind trip.
I can't even imagine.
Inside of you. And it's all like, it's not like you're sitting there, oh, baby, oh, honey, oh, yeah, let's do it all night. You're just like, it's too much. It's too much. It shuts everything down. It's like, this isn't happening. It's not. Is it happening or not? You go into a state of shock, and it's just like.
With a praying mantis.
And I'm like, why the hell would an insect want to have sex with a human, especially a male? I can understand have sex with a female, even though we're not compatible. They can't get a female pregnant.
You're the first one that has ever told me that they want to actually have relations with the humans.
Oh yeah.
I thought that the mantis were like really evolved and wise, and I've heard that they can be extremely loving, very educational, master teachers.
Well, I believe that there are some galactic insectians. I just don't know that yet. I would almost assume that there would have to be, but I just don't know. And so, because there's so much going on. My life is literally like a Men in Black movie, except there's no Men in Black to come to the rescue.
But you have seen Men in Black.
Well, the ones that were around me, though, were about a foot tall. And because I've had friends that are like, what's all these guys, with the black suits running around you? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't see. You get hit in the head with a weapon. It's not like you're looking around for a new type of alien that day. Many times. A lot of times they show up and you don't see them. It's when they start using the weapons on you and stuff. Well, before they would just come in and put me to sleep. I mean, I'd be washing dishes at like 2:30 in the afternoon. And I would just, it's almost like just feel really tired. And then the next thing I'd know, I'd open my eyes and it would be 5:30 in the afternoon and I'd be standing naked in my bedroom.
That's crazy. Very,
very physically obvious that I had been sodomized, because men and women both can tell, when you've been heavily sodomized by a group.
Absolutely. Now, Tory, when you say weapons, I mean, are these like physical kind of gun-like looking thing? What do they look like?
Well, that's one, I was trying to give you a list before that you have posted online, because there's a whole multitude of weapons. Most of the ones they hold are literally like handguns. Okay. And then there's also other ones that operate independently with no person necessary. And they like those the best because they don't have to send somebody in. You know what I mean? Like here, after a bunch of them have come in and get filled with light or whatever, and then they get their power taken away. They don't want to send somebody in, so they would send in, like these ones are like the size of a basketball and would float about three or 4 feet off the ground and just kind of fire at you. Right. And then they had these other ones that were like tubes, and they were about 3 foot high and like maybe about 1.5 wide or whatever. It's just like a tube, and it would do the same. It would fire weapons, and those were really, really hard to destroy. I mean, it took a lot. And then it was back to the thing. It was like the pressure would build up so much in me that, my nose would burst. Luckily, I have a new bamboo floor, which is really easy to clean. But, the pressure was amazing.
So
And
is that why you think that you're having nosebleeds, and Steve and Pablo and all these other
well,
people? Is it from the pressure on the head, or what else do you think it's from?
well, there's a huge difference. Is like when I was sending a Draco into the light, a burst of blood would come out, but that would be it. And I would go to the bathroom, I would get, a paper towel, and I would just wholly clean myself up, and that would be it. But the ones that they use against me, this is like, I don't know, this week was probably, I don't even know, because I know this has happened before, but where you literally stand, you're in California, so we have this thing where you have to turn the water onto a trickle so the pipes don't freeze. And what that means is you turn the faucet on just past the point where there's a drop. There's a minute point where the water starts dripping and it forms a straight line.
Wow.
That's what happens with the blood. First you start dripping, and then it starts flowing like a solid line, and it just starts pouring and pouring.
Wow.
And well, the last one was an hour. But the guy was standing there with a gun, and of course you can't do nothing about it when you're standing on the sink, because I don't want to get blood all over everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but luckily, more people came in to help. They've been helping a lot, because a lot of times they haven't in the past. But people at Procyon have been around lately.
So you feel like you're having more support from the Galactics to fight all these guys off.
They've always been supportive. It's just there's a set of rules that haven't had, like they can't just come in and, like, they couldn't just come in and arrest the people who committed 9/11. That's like a major violation of their ideals or laws or whatever. It's like laws of karma, because that's laws of interference, because you're taking away somebody's right to learn things on their own.
Okay.
And there's all these laws, which I don't understand, because like with mass arrests, I'm like, well, if you're going to arrest them all anyway, why not do it now? You know what I mean? Why have all this pain and suffering continue?
Exactly.
But there's a thing to it. Because, that was one of the things I was getting really upset. And one time that Jesus was in the house, that's when it started in the etheric. They were turning me into a female Draco, and I had a tail.
Whoa.
And so I could see myself, because you were asking about how they would do stuff to you etherically, and then it would manifest physically, like these things that you puke up or whatever.
Right.
And I came upstairs. Well, what happened was I woke up, and there was a reptilian attached to me, and half of me was dissolved into his body. So he was like basically going to suck up my physical body, my soul, and everything. So I wake up to this, and I've got this huge monster like halfway up my body. And it's just like, then you have this like face just like right here going, and it's like, you know what I mean? So,
it's crazy.
I called 0 point. It took me a while, and that's when I panicked, because sometimes we think God's given up on us when we're going through all this stuff. But then I connected to 0 point, and within a few seconds, it blew him off. So I came upstairs, and I was doing a lot, because they used to have these things called attachments, and there were all kinds of things going on with these lower astral entities that could jump on us. And Jesus Christ, Archangel Raphael, and Archangel Michael were coming in, if you called them, and pulling them off. And then once they got going, they'd get upset, and they'd come in. Sometimes they'd bring 1,000 of them. And there was a guy online, I can't remember his name right now, but he was doing that a lot to help people remove these. There was a healer, an online healer, was doing that. He did a healing for me, and it was great, but it only lasted 45 minutes, and it started all over again. So anyway, I come upstairs, and I could feel my butt was really hard, and I could feel my butt touching the floor.
Whoa.
And I woke up, and Jesus is standing right here. And Jesus and I have done a lot of work together, a lot of healing. I met him when I was 25 years old. I'm 51 now. I know him and married for years. Very comfortable. And then Raphael and Michael were there too. And then there was a group of angels. And this one angel was like, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I just kept saying that. I'm like,
what?
And they're like, and when the angel goes, you have a tail. And, of course this stuff registers. Like, you have a snake in your body. Who the hell is going to tell you that? I have a snake in my body. Like, that's going to register, It takes a while to pull this stuff in. So the angels and everybody did a healing on me and removed that astral or etheric overlay that was going to turn me into a physical reptilian. And that happened 2 nights in a row.
Wow.
And the first time, though, because every once in a while, in all this drama, I've always had a moment of clarity, and that was it. And I asked Jesus Christ, and I said, are mass arrests real? Is what Sheldon Neidl is saying on the Galactic site, I just want to know, as a mass arrest, prosperity, and new governance. Right. And he said yes. And that was all. That's all. Of course, now it's been. I think that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember when that actually happened, but it was either 2012 or 2013. So Jesus said it was going to happen. I just don't know when.
So do you feel that you've mentioned before that the traffic of dark beings coming into your home, and just to clarify so everybody remembers this, Tory really is like drawing them to the flame, so to speak, so that he can transmute as many dark beings as he possibly can and get that vibrational load, basically, right? It's a load off of this planet.
I don't think it's intentional, though, because what I'm doing, in fact, today was number 30. And once that gateway opened on the 21st to 22nd of January,
right,
we were able to send energy, because I really believe that their grid is down. They call it the grid, but I was calling it an energy matrix because it did so many things. Like control the weapons. Yeah. It helped transmit our thoughts and all this. It was just, there's so many things that it was doing. Well, I really believe it's gone, or at least most of it is gone.
Now tell everybody why you believe that.
Well, because
what you've heard.
You had sent me the Galactic Essences. And it was almost at the exact same time. I think I had been doing these I call them energy blasts, for 3 days. And what I'm doing is, because see, all of their energy, to me, I swear, is gone. Okay, so I'm going in. I knew that, and I said, okay, we're going to get serious about this. My goal is to do 10 a day. And God guides me. Sometimes I'm pointed towards Texas, the Bush and Cheney, clan down there. And we do this really heavy thing of 0 point energy. And while I'm doing that, I say, thank you for closing down my labs. Thank you for arresting these criminals involved in child trafficking, human sacrifice. I just say whatever comes to my head. But I'm always grateful that it came to an end and the people involved were removed.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, what if they're not technically, what if they're arrested? You have to go into details. Are they going to be arrested? Are they going to be removed? You know what I mean? I don't really care how it ends. I just, so I've been programming that. Well, like 2 days after that, they really figured out what was going on, and that's when I started doing your Galactic Essences.
Interesting.
And one of them, the Light Warrior, which I really loved, and then the one that had the label that I don't remember the name of the one was
Untouchables.
Untouchable.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it might have been the first night that I had taken that. Untouchable grew my astral body. And I went up to about 100 feet tall. And I was sending this energy out, and it must have been super magnified. And I was in a place I had never been before, and I just blurted out, oh my God, I'm in clarity. And, oh shoot, now I just forgot that word, because the people doing the CERN are trying to, not the God particle, but the singularity. I said, oh my God, I'm in clarity. I'm in the singularity. And I could see forever. And it was like no clouds, stars. I was just, and I looked down and I could see the rooftops.
Wow.
And it felt like it did when I was out of my physical body. There was no pain whatsoever. Everything was wonderful. Wow. And I've kept this up. And my quota was 10 times a day. And so as this gets more and more and more, they're freaking out. And then, because I have my DNA activated, when I'm connecting to people, I can hear what they say sometimes if it pertains to me. Well, I can read their DNA and I can be nosy, but I'm not going to sit around, listen to somebody, murders children, what they're talking about all day.
Right.
I think God just sends me things. Because this one guy, because, all this surveillance that's going on. Sometimes we have surveillance of 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 people listening in of what's going on in this house. Google said I'm one of the most interesting people in America, and I'm like, I'm not interesting. Y'all are the ones who are doing all this stuff. You're minding my own business. You're the one coming in over and over by the thousands. And so, and the NSA, they're here, the CIA and the FBI and the TSA and the Secret Service, and it's just been, going on constantly, in and out, in and out. And so, but then, like I said, this weekend was really the big dramatic shift. But they have been really coming in full force. But this one guy that I don't like, he's here in Indiana, and he's murdered 5 children, has sex with like 47, including at the Bilderberg. I could hear him, and then I heard they got the message, and he had made 18 phone calls, freaking out in the phone to the point where his secretary was listening in, and people are overhearing this stuff. Because they're freaking out. I can hear him say, like, you said I'd have protection. You said Lucifer would protect me, and if I killed these kids for you, that nothing would ever happen to me. Just screaming at the top of their lungs. And then, and so You know what I mean? It's like some office walls aren't very thick. And so there's been a lot of that going on. And I've heard a lot of things that I haven't heard before. Because everybody always thought, I'm always called a sex offender. I'm called a prostitute. Especially when Obama and the Secret Service were coming in like every 20 minutes, you know, all four of them, sometimes once a day or twice a day.
Crazy. So crazy.
They were like, you know, where's the prostitute? Where's the faggot? And I was like, oh, he's still in the White House. You know, so once in a while I get a good one in. They absolutely hate me. And then
so
especially because...
So you're basically saying that you really feel confident their grid went down because you've been privy to overhearing their conversations on the inner plane.
That was the later aspect.
Okay.
That was like I would say there's a list of things that are different now than that they were before January the 21st. And it just happened like somebody flipped a light switch. It's been happening because I don't think the grid went down. I think it took like a week for it to all go down, like 7 days or whatever. But it was really first as a witness. But like I said before, when I witness something, you know, I kind of just wait rather than run out and say, oh, this is what happened. This is what I saw. Because sometimes, you know, it wasn't reality. Like, especially when they use holograms on people and the shapeshifters from Bellatrix. For some reason, when people go to Bellatrix and they live there, they can become shape-shifting abilities. And so one person can come in if they want to have sex with you, well, rape, but they can change into 10 different people. You know what I mean? So they can come back over and over, and you're not any of the wiser because you're thinking it's somebody else.
Right.
And so that's why it was really, you know, at first, I just kept saying, and people would tell me who they are, and I would say, I don't know who you are. And that would really upset people, especially the Hollywood celebrities, because they all have these machines. And their ego is huge.
Right.
And some of them kind of really latched on to me, and went on for several hundred times. I'm not going to go into the names here because it's just, I want to focus on the people who are running my labs. Because the truth will all come out. It's all going to come out. Whether I'm here or not, it'll all come out.
Well, so you definitely feel not only has the grid gone down, not only are you seeing more numbers, but you made a comment on the phone with me and you said, I know that they're getting to the end because they're starting to send in beings and troops that are much younger and less experienced, right?
Yes.
Okay. So they're desperate. They're running out of like reinforcements, so to speak.
Yeah, so they have to get other people who have never done this before. This was their first time to do it because a lot, especially when they would come and heaven would drop them and they were shaking on the floor. Eventually they would get back home. I'm sure that their soul, or I'm not sure if their soul comes and their physical body's back in DC or whatever. But once they get back home, they can't come back for a while because they're just wiped out. Because George Bush and, well, it appears, but I'm really like sure, Bush Sr. and Cheney both had a heart attack this weekend. And also John Brennan's from CIA, he also had 2 heart attacks here twice. Because Mother God gave him a blast. It was right over there. Mother God gave him a blast of sacred fire. Well, John Brennan's murdered over 600 people.
Oh my God!
His nickname is the Assassin. He's the one that killed all these Hollywood celebrities that everybody thinks is suicide, like Paul Walker, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson. Who's that guy really? Like Michael Hastings. You know, from
all these journalists.
He was doing all this research work. He was going to expose the Illuminati and stuff in Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah. And
he's doing really well. And so, you know, I know hopefully someday if I make it, I'm going to be able to go and be able to reach, like he really wanted me to tell his wife some things. But the funny thing is now all of them have gone back to Agartha, and because when Agartha people are born fully conscious. And so they have all the memories and know who they are from the past. And almost everybody that's been murdered has already been reborn. It was September 5th that Whitney and Michael were reborn.
Interesting.
Sylvia Brown came in on October the 27th.
Sylvia Brown, huh?
Robin Williams wanted to come right back. Because you know what? They feel cheated because they didn't chart to die. It's like all these children that are murdered in the My Lab child trafficking, they didn't choose to do that.
Interesting.
The reptilians violate our contracts.
Right.
Most of the time.
So why do you think that they're coming back in through Agartha? What is your feeling about that?
Well, because they grow up much faster down there.
Okay.
Because the time is different. And Agartha's in the 5th dimension. That's really almost like parallel to heaven. And so I don't believe at all that a baby would stay in the mother's womb for 9 months. And because it was, I can't remember exactly. I'd probably have to go back and check. But somebody, my spirit guide Peter said, Michael's walking around the house humming. Because Michael and I went through a lot because because John Brennan and we would talk. Well, first we just like the celebrities. Because I kind of have a reputation now because I've talked to so many people who were murdered in heaven. So a lot of people come in and say, okay, this is what's going on.
True.
And see, I don't report it that way. I look at the people's DNA who were murdered. I can go back, and God lets me go back to see the DNA of, like, let's say Robin Williams, and I can read what's happening to him at the moment of his death.
Fascinating.
And so that's how I know. So I report from what I see, and then it just so happens that people come in and tell me this is what happened. I'm like, really? Because that's exactly what I saw. And then with like Osama bin Laden too. I mean, he died just a couple of months right after 9/11, and really didn't have that much to do with 9/11.
Exactly.
He died in a hospital room with like some kind of kidney dialysis machine or whatever. And I was in the room. I went back and I did it. That's when I still do an outer body. And I went to the room and I was trying to look out the window to see, but it was all these beautiful. Later, I learned it was Dubai. All these magnificent high rises. Well, I didn't know that at the time. I never heard what Dubai was.
Very interesting. Well, so, they say Osama bin Laden was a CIA operative, and they basically
almost everybody is. And
really?
The good news, I can read this message if I can see it. But there are a lot of CIA agents that got arrested yesterday.
Okay, Sunday. Wow. So that rumor is true according to you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, that's just, if I would say 100%, this is what I see, this is what I know to be true. So unless, it turns out to be some like big kind of hoax, but I don't think so. Because just of the way it happened, because things like this have happened so many times. And you know what I mean? And then it's like, and then the Galactics always come in and talk to me, because I contact them, or they can contact me as well, but they never do, because then that makes me a target. But so all these little things, when I go on YouTube and say, oh yeah, well, this guy was killed by so-and-so, this guy was killed by so-and-so, this guy, this is what happened. The CIA has ISIS on the payroll. The CIA creates all these armies. Hamas is owned by Israel, and the whole thing of Hamas attacking Israel is all paid for by Benjamin Netanyahu's friends.
Exactly.
His group. Exactly. And this woman today in the hospital is like, well, why would that be true? I was like, because they want ever-ending war. They make so much money off of war.
Right.
They want war to be perpetual and ending. So when they run out of enemies, they just create new enemies. And then they go on.
Tory, it's not even just making so much money off of it. It's they gain the life force energy from all the bodies that die on the field.
Yes, that's the number one reason.
You know what I mean? They're able to extract their life force energy as they're dying, and of course, all the bloodshed. Apparently, all the bloodshed spilling on Mother Earth is another whole thing. It's so sick. It's so over the top sick. One of the things I want to remind the audience, please, I put a post up there. It was initiated by Tory, which was that we command that all dark beings are removed from this planet. I am in agreement with him. Who cares about arrests? I'd rather him just take them off world, And the other thing is, I want to remind everybody that we command that all of this dark technology that is being used against our will is removed permanently. Okay, so we got to focus on the technology, guys, because it's still being used against a lot of us.
Well, and one thing I really like to do too is, because before all this happened to me, I was really good at manifesting law of attraction. And one of my favorite ways is to be grateful for the outcome as it's already happened. Yeah. That's one of my favorite ways, because I was manifesting stuff like all the time, especially when I wanted to be able to do something for somebody else and didn't have the means for it. Things would come up all the time. Like if I have a friend who's in a wheelchair and I'd want to go buy her dinner, and I would not have the money because I live on a couple $100s a month. And I would say, I was so nice, thank you, universe, I really wanted to buy her dinner. And then somebody will come up to me, sometimes a half an hour later and say, hey, you know what, we're going to go away next week. Will you please mow our yard on Tuesday? Here's $25. Mm-hmm. And then I would use the $25 to go buy my other friend a meal. Right. And little things like that would happen all the time. They happen really fast. Yeah. When you're asking for material things for yourself, they take slow time, but that won't always be the case, because we'll be able to just manifest whatever we want very soon.
I can't
But when we're
wait.
manifesting for other people, it happens really quickly. So people, if, I think everybody does what they want. Just say, I want this to end. I desire this to end. I command this to end. I'm so grateful that child trafficking came to an end. The more people that pray to God, the faster that it will come to an end. And I know that we're close to mass arrest. So if people are out there, all you have to do, and sometimes, even just walking around in your car, it's like, how are you today? Well, I'm so glad mass arrest happened. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for mass arrest. I just sometimes I have to say that 100 times a day.
Yes.
But everybody, I really think you have to do it your own way. Because a lot of people don't feel comfortable, because some people are really forceful, say, I command this to end. This is, our planet too. How dare you do this? But other people don't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
My advice.
That's such a good point, Tory, because I think a lot of people, they get hung up on the fact, well, I don't know how to do it that way, or I don't have those gifts. And the fact of the matter is, it's all based on intention.
Yes,
if you come from intention and a pure heart, and you ask this to be done, you're going to join that vibrational wave amongst the rest of us that are already doing it. Yes. And it helps. Every single person helps. Now, I am a big proponent that if you voice it, it does carry an immense amount of power, because sound is one of the most powerful vibrations. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And especially your own voice. Your own voice is a very special signature. It's tied in with your DNA. Yeah.
That's why what's best for you is kind of like, because I learned to work with 0 point energy due to intent. Yeah. It was my intent, and I didn't even really. I wanted a super powerful energy to heal, because I didn't want to be a Reiki master and work on somebody on a bed. I just didn't want to do it. And everything I do is remote. I did remote healing for 10 years before I even really knew that it worked daily. Yeah. And heaven told me, I can't even remember, sometime last year, they said, you've had enough 0 point energy flow through your mind, through your head, heart, and hands to power the earth for 3.25 years. Wow. Everything, the factories, everything, schools, colleges, everything.
That's so cool.
I thought, damn, it's no wonder I'm so tired. It's like, I'm an old man now. I'm like, wow.
Oh, Tory.
My spirits are kind of lifting back up, because this week. Oh,
well, I just want everybody to also know I'm so hooked in with Tory's frequency for some reason that I called him the other day and I said, hey, somebody woke me up about, I guess it was 4:30 in the morning, right? And said, you need to do a healing on Tory. And so I did my healing, and I called him the next day and I said, I was called to do this, and something about life force energy, you were like, hitting the basement. And Tory goes, yeah, 78%, you rose at 78%. So don't underestimate these messages that you're getting right now. We're all needing support, and we're needing to make sure we're all unified, because this is the most intense time for sure.
And that's one of the main reasons I do DNA readings for people, because some people we've been beaten up and abused for so long, we've kind of lost touch with everything, and we've been told so many lies. And then by telling somebody, okay, well, I see that you've lived in 30 star systems, and they're like, well, hey, wait a minute, if that's true, I should be able to see that. And then they wake up and say, wow, you know what, I'm not the person I thought I was. A lot of people think that they were born, whatever, a few years ago. Yeah. 30, 50 years ago, and then that's it. And then they get reactivated to these things, and they realize how special they are. Yeah. And even just a simple little prayer helps.
I agree. Really and the fact that they realize how old they really are, because you tap into that too.
Well, and another thing too is our souls are not the same age as our DNA. And because most humans are between, I'd say 4.5 and 6.1, 6.2 million years old. Interesting. Unless they've carried their DNA from another galaxy, which I've only seen, I don't even know what percentage, less than 1%. I've only seen that in like maybe 2-3 people.
Okay, now wait a minute. If humans are between 4.5 and 6.2 million years old, what is the average lifespan of, say, like a Pleiadian?
Well, mostly what I see is almost virtually everybody started in the Lyra system. Okay. And mostly, if I could just generalize everybody, we either go Lyra, Vega, Sirius B, or Lyra, Sirius B. And only very rarely does someone have a lifetime in Sirius A. That comes up very, very rare. And then we go to the Pleiades. And then there's a whole list of stars: Astrope, Merope, El Nath, Alcyone, which is a great star because you can either live on the planet outside of Alcyone, or you can have a lifetime inside Alcyone. Sometimes people do both. It's like a lot of times I see people that live in inner Venus and on the surface before it got all gnarly and nasty. Because Venus used to look like Earth, real similar, oceans and forests and all that stuff.
So it's messed up.
Mars too. Mars was a beautiful planet before it was stripped.
Wow. How sad.
But Tiamat, and then you look at our system, and Tiamat was the first planet. Almost everybody, when we came from another star system to this star system, almost everybody lived in Tiamat first. Which I don't know, but I keep saying that I really believe it looked like the movie Avatar. They call Avatar a moon. But I honestly believe that Tiamat looked very, very, very similar to the moon in Avatar. But Tiamat was huge.
Wow.
Not as big as Saturn or Jupiter, but it was far, far bigger than the Earth. And because a lot of our planets generate heat from the inside. People are like, how can you live on a planet out by Pluto? It's because the heat's generated from the inside of the planet. The inner star of planets or moons generate the heat. So people go inside and they live on the inside. And then they have an ecosystem. You have trees, grass, or whatever producing oxygen.
So it's like Agartha.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
have you been inside each one of the star systems, like Saturn and Uranus and Neptune and
well, that's based almost right when it started with the other ones. And I was having a lot of trips, and I did go to Saturn because I was fascinated by that hexagon hole. And I knew that had to be created, that it wasn't just it just didn't happen that way. Because a lot of scientists say, oh yeah, it just happens. No, it doesn't. And I was flying in through the top, towards the bottom, through the hexagon hole. And it was like, oh my God, stop. I was like, I got to pull out.
Really?
And every time I would do a reading, all beings from Saturn are very benevolent, which was an archon because it was filled with millions of non-physical archons, Zeta Reticulans. They were doing this massive control thing to the Earth.
Wow.
For a long time. And it took me a while to realize that because they were screwing with my head.
Wow. So you saw them in Saturn.
I would say I sensed them before. It was like in a Hollywood horror movie, and a person's like going outside, hello, murderers, I'm coming out in the woods all by myself, and you can come and kill me.
So you can sense that they were all there, yeah.
And except I didn't keep going for the Hollywood horror movie. I stopped because I could sense what was going on and left. And so,
what
I couldn't go in. It was too much for me. It was too windy.
What about Neptune?
Neptune, no, I haven't been out. And because once, and then because another thing I did, I told you about when I went into the military base on the moon, which was a really big mistake on my part. I went to the moon 3 times.
God, you did that
I got
too.
busted. 2 times I got busted. The 3rd time I went in, nobody could see me except for this one really big dinosaurian dude, and he was friendly. He wasn't going to do anything to me. And I went in and made myself invisible so they couldn't see me, and I was walking around looking at stuff. And it just looks like the NASA, the places I were at, they had huge windows. And it looked like the NASA thing. Everybody had like a computer TV, and they were all just kind of sitting there, smoking a cigarette or whatever, and reptilians. And I kind of turned like this, and there was this really big dinosaurian dude standing right next to me, who was going, and I was just like, hi. Like, holy shit. And so I freaked out and left. But another thing that got me in a lot of trouble was I looked at this ship, and I thought it was Pleiadian, because I've been on a couple of Pleiadian ships, and they were the most beautiful things, amazing. And I jumped on this one ship, and it turned out it was a Zeta Reticulan, and there were 3 of them on board. And I have, what I say to these beings, I could never repeat on a G-rated, because my mouth, I don't even know where these words come from, especially when I talk to the bushes and stuff, because they're just so horrible. And the guy was like, well, we can't control you. I'm like, yeah, you can't control me. You can't control me. And I laughed. Well, that was the stupidest thing I've ever done, because they literally came after me and then, try to have outer body experiences, and they would just basically grab me.
So it's like the moral to the story is you really have to be careful when you're doing all this OBE work and time travel work and remote viewing work. It's like you have to really be careful where you end up. And
yeah, because I didn't know they can see you. like the Pleiadians, it was really cool. Everything was gold. It was like this whole inside of the ship was shimmering in gold. It didn't even look like you could touch the wall. It was just kind of glowing.
Wow.
And everybody there was so beautiful. And then me, I look all beat up and stuff. And they were like, "Oh, where do you live?" And there was this big oval, like HD TV, right in the center of the ship. And I just looked over at it, and instantly the lake appeared. And I said, "Right there." And I pointed to the house. But all I had to do was think about it. Well, I didn't even notice I thought about it. It just happened so fast
That is so
that
cool.
the ship was a sentient being, so it picked up where I lived and just put it out for the screen for everybody to see.
That reminds me of that show, Farscape. You ever seen
I
that
haven't
show?
seen that yet.
Reminds me of that show. So what about Arcturus? That's like one of my favorite. I do a lot of work with the Arcturians. Have you been on
Arcturians are really fabulous. And what I know now, at least what I've seen from my research, is there's the 5th planet and the 7th planet.
Huh.
And on the 5th planet, there's equestrian humans. And the 7th planet is a type of feline human. And the type of feline humans there have fur skin. In fact, you can see a lot. There's one very divine, I don't know if she's a goddess, a lady. Her name is Sekhmet.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a beautiful, looks like a lioness woman,
Yes.
a lioness. And she, if people want to activate memories of that, you can just call her, and they can just say, they can give you a dose of energy, and you can just start waking up.
Very cool.
And then in the same system, the Arcturus Buddhist system. Sometimes I say booties. I don't even know why. A lot of times I don't pronounce the names right. But there's the 5th planet, and it's a different type of feline humans who call, I believe, Fellini.
Yeah.
And their skin is like the Broadway show Cats, where they have skin, but the skin is in brightly colors. Like they can have orange skin with brown stripes, or violet skin with orange or yellow stripes, and then cat ears and everything, cat tail.
I just had a lady come on. Oh, I don't know, a couple months ago, from there, and her whole goal was to kind of get out the APB. For her team to get ready because the portals were about to blow open. And she needed to have a team that was ready to be able to handle the influx. Because what I'm seeing in my essence work right now is a lot of eagles are coming in. And these are the beings that are making sure that they're protecting us from the outside. Like right where the heat is, right where the galactic wars are. We're right where the gate is, and all that. They're coming in a lot right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool.
So
on Saturday,
there
was a falcon that sat out in the tree, just sitting there looking at me, and I was kind of looking out my window.
Wow, a falcon.
And I went and looked it up. This I can't think of his name right now. It does some Animal Speak by Ted.
Ted Andrews, yeah.
Ted Andrews, thank you.
He's
and
awesome.
I looked it up, and the message was act swiftly. And right after that, probably about a half an hour, because I was thinking, okay, we're going to have a nice quiet weekend. I'm just going to lay here and try to rest and recoup, and that, And that, I was like, and then I was just over and over and over again. They just kept coming in and kept coming in. But see, with me, and people think, well, why are you so special? They try to kill you. And it's just because not only have they been doing this for months, like trying to kill me, the more they try to kill me and can't, the more they try. And it's just, I make them so angry in so many different ways. And that's basically why, because, I go out and I say who's committed a crime, or, and then that thing in Paris happened that I identified, everybody that was responsible.
Yeah.
And they just get really, really angry because and people say, well, how can you do this? And because I've done the work necessary to be able to. And I'm a human, just like the millions and millions of others, billions of us here on this planet.
Sure.
And I took the time to take some classes and do some things, activate my chakras, have my DNA activated, and I put my ego to sleep, and I put my soul in charge. I super connected to heaven over the years, and I've done a huge amount of healing work for others, which has brought back and returned to me in my divine highest good in ways I never thought imaginable.
I agree, Tory, but I also think that you obviously specifically came here to do this task.
See, I don't know that I did.
Oh, come on. Are you
did.
serious? Come on.
No, I don't know that I did. Because
You're
I
crazy.
charted to die when I was 31. And
I know, but you obviously changed your mind, and obviously someone must have convinced you to change your mind. that we needed those skills that you carry. I'm constantly saying this on my radio shows. Listen, it's really important that we all find our own unique, individualistic gift. I don't have to be Tory, and Tory doesn't have to be me. Every single one of us brings something amazing to the table.
Yes, and that's what's great.
To
celebrate each other for what we can do.
Yeah.
Instead of condemning each other for what we can't.
We're all in this together, and we're at the final hour. And the only reason we're at the final hour is because we did this together. And we did it with all the assistance. I mean, we're one big unified field of beings and light that's working very hard to bring this about. Yeah. Every one of us, even the ones that don't think that they're doing anything, they're doing something.
Well, it's even people who have a desire to see the New World Order not take over the planet are putting their energy into the pot.
Absolutely.
So every little bit helps. It's the people that are just completely out of contact with reality. A lot of times it's not their fault, or a lot of times they're charted to do that.
Right.
To wake
they're
up.
Programmed. They're programmed and they're implanted so heavily they don't even know any better.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, so tell me one more thing, which is, because I know you're really tired tonight and I know you're not feeling that great. Tell me what you think regarding all the rumors lately about the financial system. Have you heard anything from Mother, Father, God about that?
No.
No?
It's just, I don't, I did Future for this one woman, and I went, she was a really nice young lady, and I went to the Hall of Charts and got a message for her because she was really depressed and has a hard life. But I don't do Future because Future is so malleable and it changes so often.
Quickly.
I think it's an absolute waste of time. The only thing I'm really focusing on is, how fast are these people going to be removed from reality, because no one wants to see children get murdered.
Yeah. Such
a horrible, horrible thing. And, and that's when I became who I am today, was years ago, because I stayed for my mom and my dad. Yeah. My mom did not want her other child to die because my sister died when she was 31.
My God.
And so I stayed for mom, and then I started to develop, and I said, well, I'm not going to be sick the rest of my life, so I might as well, my spirit or my life things were healer and survivor. I might as well get off my butt and start doing it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was actually exposed to what they were doing, and that's when, either stupidly or bravely, I don't know which, I decided I was going to do something about it. Now, after 38 months, I'm at the point where if I died tomorrow, I wouldn't care, because I'm so tired and so beat up, and just, it's just too much for one person to go through. And sometimes I feel like I'm the only one doing this. But it's not. That's not the case. You can just turn on the YouTube and see other people telling their stories about what this group has done to them.
Truly, I get a lot of emails. There are so many incredible people out there doing their bit and doing, really, I mean, I hate to use the word sacrifice because it's really not true, because that's why we came here. We came here to do this work. But, I don't want you to feel like you're alone, because we're all in it together. For anybody that's feeling a pang in your heart, please do me the favor, if not for Tory, to send him some healing energy, just mainly life force energy. So.
Yeah, and you can just, if people aren't a healer, anybody can be a healer. All you have to do is have a desire and say, dear angels, dear God, please go and do a healing for this person, your parents or friends, family, whoever. And I really go, because I kind of wanted to give you this message. Are we about done?
Yeah, we're well, and I wanted to also say to send thanks and gratitude to the Allied forces, because we think we've got it tough down here, man. They're like right in the thick of it right now. It's very intense right now.
Yeah, they have done so much for us. I'm really grateful.
Seriously.
But this is what I got today. The mercenary army hired by Bush and Cheney has been arrested.
Right on.
And all their weapons destroyed. The 296 dark entities, mostly reptilian males, were from Bellatrix. There were a few Zeta Reticulans amongst them, and a few amphibians. And I asked a question, I don't remember what it was, and yes, the group of 13. Oh, because I kept seeing the same group of 13, And I asked them about them, and they said, yes, the group of 13 were the leaders. They were 7 to 8 feet tall, ruthless killers. They were not able to touch you since they were in a slightly different dimension, so they had to use the weapons. Mm. Members of the Procyon team say hello, and we are glad to assist. It is not necessary to leave the earth right now and return to heaven at this time. Because I was ready to go. After they almost killed me 3 times, I'm like, okay, I'm done. But then I just kind of snapped out of it. But a lot of that, see, is Sectians, and they have this, like, can put the most intense suicide desire in you. Like, you go from, like, happy to the next minute, like, oh, okay, I want to die. It's like, it's horrible. And at this time, it has become very difficult for the Dark Ones here. They are suffocating in the light.
Wow.
And they're all freaking out. Absolutely all freaking out. Bush Sr. and Cheney both suffered heart attacks Sunday morning when Mother God blasted them with the sacred fire.
Right on.
Through you and your kitchen. So they were just confirming, because I said, well, you know, what happened? What happened? Because it was just me in the kitchen, and Bush and Cheney came in, and then I did the usual, and then they fell flat. They were just like laying on the ground, and their legs were like, you know what I mean? They were just, it's almost like they were being I was like, they electrocuted me with a stun gun probably over 80,000 times. And that's what it looked like what they did to me.
Do you agree that they're probably 2 of the darkest beings on the planet?
I would say so, yeah. And Elizabeth Windsor and her husband.
So she's next. Really the one in control. So she's next, right?
I don't know. I would think that it has to go with the darkest and the most evil. But I keep hearing that Cheney's done more damage to the planet than all the wars combined. And the Bush family's murdered 75 million people.
Oh my God! Where'd you get that from? 75 million?
Keep track. Well, we're almost to 3 million in Iraq, almost 3 million in Afghanistan. I forget what it was in Yemen, and military industrial complex is murdering in 157 countries.
Well, plus if you take the whole family all the way back, you know, if you took back his generations back to the time of World War II, they've got all that blood on their hands.
Yep. And then, because it does seem too good to be true, because there was a huge group, 458 of them, and many CIA agents were also arrested on Sunday, 458 of them, and they will not return.
Wow.
And they were, they had physical bodies, and they were not surface dwellers.
Right.
And so, and they were, it's my understanding that they were not residents of Earth.
Whoa.
And so they were just here as like hired, you know, killers.
Right.
For, you know, the dark side. And so, because you know, because when something happens, it's just like, sometimes it seems too good to be true. But it happened several times. You know, like I said before, sometimes they would go off to the side, and that means they just go back to their bodies. But a few select times, everybody just went up, straight up. And that's the way they used to leave when we were doing all these arrests. Like when we arrested those 300,000, reptilians last year, they were all going up. And then they put them on ships for a little while. And then I don't really understand how it all works, but they were the ones, a lot of them inside people. But I don't know how they had, it's almost like they had a physical body somewhere, because one of them was inside Obama. And my spirit guide was like, this is going to be the happiest day of your life so far. He's gone. He's not coming back. And, oh, thank God. You know what I mean? Because these people are they just don't quit. No. That's another way that I know that they're gone for good, because they don't quit. They cannot stop. It's like they have this thing in their head where they keep, like if they want to kill somebody and then they can't, it makes the desire stronger and stronger, and they just keep going and going and going and going, coming in over and over again, at every chance that they can.
And this just shows you, doesn't it just show you that they really are non-rehabilitative, you know? They just need to be, they just need to be sent to the light.
I don't know what's going to happen to them. A lot of them have. They went into the uncreated mass, and they're not going to be reconstituted as people. I
wanted to tell you one other thing. This is so cool. I was listening to a radio link over the weekend that someone sent over to me, and the gentleman was talking about Creator. And he was saying that basically he has been told that Creator stopped thinking about specific people. And just by stopping that thought, it stopped their life force. And they became nothing.
Oh, I don't know.
It was
One thing I
very
do know is
interesting.
God doesn't kill anybody. Well, the one thing I know for sure is God doesn't kill anybody. And if somebody wants to do a meditation and you want to be with the creator of our universe, Father God, you can go into meditation and put your intent of, I want to go to the temple of Father God. And what you do is in your meditation, you go, what I like to do is the black wall, because you close your eyes and you see black. And then you see a door open, but you don't see the door because it's black. But you see like a rectangle, and when you look through it, it's the most brilliant colors you've ever seen in your life. It looks like a park. And you go through the door and you're in heaven. And then you just project yourself to his temple, and you go in, and there's an altar there. And you say, Dear Father God, I would like to speak to you. And he will come in. He cannot hold a human shape for very long. So you're only going to get a couple minutes. You're not going to sit. It's not like sitting at Starbucks and having a 2-hour conversation. So it's going to be like you got a couple minutes. Say what you want. Of course, you can talk to Father God constantly at home. Yeah, it's just really nice. He will give you a hug. But he will either come in as like maybe about 25 years old with this incredible golden blonde hair, or he comes in as an old man with white hair, like a lot of people like to see God as an old man depicted, with a white robe and whatever. And but you can get a hug from God, and you can talk to God, and you can say, okay, I really want this, or I really want that, or whatever. But you can also do the same thing with Mother God, because see, Father God does not like to interfere with our charts, and that's a lot of things that's going on with the Galactics, because they don't like to interfere either. They can only do things when under the guide of heaven. But see, now Mother God is totally different. You can go to Mom and get what you want. Well, she's not going to just snap her fingers and give you a Ferrari. But I mean, if you go to Mother God and you say, look, my friend is really sick, can you either teach me how to heal her, or can you help her learn how to heal herself? You know what I mean? There's all kinds of things you can ask for, you get almost instantly. Right. And the same thing too, and you can give Mother God a really big hug. And it's amazing. And then also with her sword, if you have a lot of crap in your system, a lot of negativity or whatever, you can ask her to use the sword to cleanse you, and she will touch you on both shoulders with this sword, and it's just like whoosh. Awesome. It takes out all the crap, and it's amazing. Awesome. And it's just so beautiful, just incredibly beautiful.
Thank you for that. I think people really appreciate that. And Tory, can you just clarify with people? A lot of people are always wondering, what do you see as the difference between Mother God and Mother Earth?
Well, in my research, I've seen that we've had many different entities in this planet. That the Earth is a living, breathing, sentient being. There was Terra and Artha, Mother Earth, and she left, and now we've got Gaia.
And what about Sophia? How does Sophia fit in?
Well, she might either be another one, or they might be a different name for one that I just mentioned. I don't know. Because there's so much I'd love to research, but I don't have time. Yeah. And because a lot of say the goddess Sophia, and she's probably her own being, and but Mother Earth went to another galaxy, and it's quite a ways away, and she's inhabited another planet, and so, but I don't really understand if they're goddesses or if they're, they don't have, their physical bodies are the planet itself. Mm-hmm. And, the shell with the inner star, but then they can leave and go to a different planet. And one thing that really surprised me is that Earth is a rogue planet and is from near Alcyone in the Pleiades. And Father God brought the Earth here on a wave of 0-point energy, knowing this, like the Earth is like 700 billion years old. Wow. And did not always have water. A lot of the developmental things happened here after it was here. Like it didn't come here with water on it or whatever. A lot of things happened here. But as far as I know, from what I know now, is the solar system is 27 trillion years old, and things are just, and that's the dark entities just hate it when I read people's DNA, because I'm like, oh yeah, well 6 million years ago you lived in this star system, you know what I mean? And then that was just when you came here to this solar system, the Milky Way. You're old. We're all like eternal beings. I don't know. I was like, can you imagine if I did one reading for everybody? It would take me like 1 million years. Okay, you went this galaxy and then that galaxy and these, 76 planets you lived on, and then you moved over there, and then you changed your DNA, and then you went over there. But because they really want us to believe that we were from cavemen or apes, and that's just a programmed belief set in by the Anunnaki. And I really think that a lot of these beings were genetically created by, non-humans.
Yes.
The Anunnaki and the Insectians. It's hard to imagine that an insect can be smart, but they were brilliant when it comes to DNA. They're so far ahead of, us here on this planet, but
yes.
It's just amazing to me how smart they really are. Now, reptilians aren't that smart. They're not really that smart, and that's why they can be easily outwitted, and they can't create. That's why we have the advantage, especially if your sacred light is over 51%. Because you can create if you're a dark entity, but now on this planet, it's really, really hard to create. And then when you do something negative, you almost get busted right away, because the laws of karma have really sped up.
Finally.
And but if you, if your sacred light is higher, it's a miracle what you can get done. Like even the 60s and 70s, and then I was told you have to have 80% sacred light to work with 0 point, which I don't know how to prove that, or I don't know if I even understand that, but
it makes sense, Tory, because right now they're trying. All I ever hear is they're trying so much to assist us in bringing the light quotient, the ratio. Like that's a really key thing that I hear all the time, is to continue to hold that vibration high. And it's a very fine line when you're reading stuff about the history, okay? And you're reading all the lies and the deception and the atrocities and the things that are happening to our animals and our children and our, all this stuff. And so, of course, on an emotional level, because that is what really causes the human to be so unique with all the other star systems, is our range of emotion. It's very difficult to not get caught up in those stories. That's why I'm constantly saying, just be the observer. Take in the information and just be an observer about it and decide what feels right. Throw the rest away, but focus on, what do we want? What have we done right? What are we still doing right? We're an amazing race. We can do some amazing things.
Open is great, because you might have a really strong belief today and it might be completely different tomorrow. Something may come along and shatter all that.
And you have to accept that your foundational belief system is going to change all the time when you get into the journey of truth. That's just part of it, isn't it? Yeah. Seriously. But anyway,
I think it was in 2008, I got really pissed off and I was screaming at God in the sky, and I said, I want to know the truth. I'm so sick of being lied to on this damn planet with all these stupid news people that constantly lie about everything. I want to know the truth. I want to know who lives in this solar system, and I want to know who lives in this galaxy, and I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got it out, and I felt kind of great, blow off a little steam. Well, and then a month later, I thought I was signing up for a healing class to learn how to balance people's chakras. And when I went to the class, there was a room of about 11 Alpha Centaurians in the room, and I could see them and hear them talking, and I was just like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, can you see them? Oh my God. And it kind of took off from there, It was just, but I thought, well, it's funny because they're human. They look just like us, It just literally looked exactly like us, It was just amazing.
But they have horse. Isn't the lower part of their body horse-like? No,
that's the equestrian humans. They're from Arcturus, at least that I know of so far. I mean, there's probably more, but yeah, most of the Centaurians are very, very, very similar to human. I don't think there's a huge difference, but because there's a whole bunch of Centaurian stars: Menkent, Rigel Kent, Milifane, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Centauri, Hadar. There's a whole bunch. And the funny thing is usually after we go to the Pleiades, we usually went to Alpha Centauri next. Because a lot of their systems are about 4 million years old.
It's so, what an amazing world you live in, Tory. I mean, people just want to hear, they just want to hear what you see.
That's, I wasn't coughing up blood in the sink for an hour at a time, but, and the pain. Then they did something to my knee, so, and I'm just starting to really feel it. The stuff I have on my knee wore off, so I could hardly walk all weekend. They just have so many weapons, and it's just like, and then when you get depressed, it makes the weapons work more, because I mean, after you get beaten up and stuff for a while, it just really takes a toll on you. The pain is unbearable. But today I really kind of lifted back up again. and I, switched it to back end. I want to live.
Good.
Because Mother God said, when I told her I was ready to go, because it was just too much, and I said I was ready to go. That was before everybody got arrested. And she said, well, I wanted you to live so you could see the fruits of your labor.
Right.
And so that's why heaven wants me here, so I can see that what's manifested out of what I've done.
Well, Tory, we don't want to see you go either. We'd like to have a party with you and celebrate and be able to give you a big hug and thank you physically for all you do.
Come out there. It's been 30 degrees below zero thanks to the heart.
Oh
But below zero.
30 degrees below zero?
It's been right around zero, but night it goes below zero. Today we're supposed to have a high of 7, and then it went up to 10. It was like, ooh, 10 degrees.
That's crazy. It was raining buckets yesterday here. We haven't had rainstorms like that in a long time. And I woke up today, Tory, and it was gorgeous. It was like 65 degrees. It was piercing blue skies with big, billowy, fluffy, real clouds. Real clouds. So something really major shifted. I mean, I can feel it. And that's one of the main reasons I had Tory on today, everybody, because I really want everyone to know. I know it's been super intense for all of you guys out there under psychic attack, as well as Tory and myself and all of those that are near and dear to my heart. So hang in there, because we're at the finishing gate. How do you say that? The finishing line.
Line, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, too, and throughout my history, when things get really, really bad, it's always right at the end of a cycle. So it may not be over, but we're definitely on the end of a cycle.
I really feel that too.
I think there's so many people that, because I would assume that like the troops, because a lot of the troops that came in, me in my mouth, I'm like, okay, let's fill these filthy low-life criminals. And they're like, what? I'm a hero, dude. I'm a hero. I work for the United States Army and I'm a hero. And I'm like, really? Then why are you committing war crimes for men that rape and murder children? Why? And they don't like to hear that. The Army does not like to hear that they're nothing more than war criminals, but that's what they've become. And, so a lot of people go into shock. But I don't know if they're going to be re-educated or whatever, but there's a lot of people in the military that are good people. They just don't realize that. And this one guy got real cocky. He goes, Lucifer's going to come and kill you. And then I was like, okay, here we go. Lucifer was arrested in 2013 in September. I can hear him calling for Satan. Why would you come to me? Because he's gone and he ain't coming back. So.
Well, hey, listen, I just have to put this out there because I'm a military brat. There are a lot of people that sign up for the military really believing that they're doing the right thing to protect and serve their fellow citizens. They really earnestly believe that. And they buy the whole thing. They buy the whole thing about, Russia's coming to bomb us and China's going to take over all of our nation's governments. And, they get freaked. They go into scare and fear mode. So
I've heard that about 30% of the military are good people. But I do know that when somebody signs up, usually their sacred light content immediately drops to 37%.
Wow.
I've heard people. We have a local man here that was in and he wanted to go fight in Afghanistan for who knows what reason, but he had like 76 or 78% sacred light, and when he went over, it immediately fell to 37%. Because that's the magic number for people who join the dark side but have yet to rape or murder. And it's usually for some reason, 37%, I have no idea. It's like, why is everybody 30 years old in heaven? That's just the way it is.
That's pretty interesting. Well, I mean, part of that too is because they're buying into this whole paradigm of fear. They strip them down. I mean, boot camp, right? It's all about disassociating with your own ego and your own identity. And then, molding you into something where you can take orders.
A killing machine that they will use you as fodder.
Right.
A killing machine that will eventually get killed, because that's the plan.
Exactly.
You use the soldier to murder as much as possible and then to kill them off so you don't have to bring them home. And
convince the soldier that it's worth it because they're protecting the women, children, families, and people at home. Oh, yeah, they're fed so much crap. And and it's all over the world. It's not just the United States. It's all over the world. It's very sad. Yeah, but the numbers are very, very high around the world that people are praying like crazy that, the Nazi-controlled United States will come to an end.
there's a huge amount of people on this planet praying that our government, or the dark entities that have taken over our government, be removed, be arrested, be removed. There's people calling for that all over. So, but
Wow.
I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I know we're going, because all this stuff, because I mean, if the New World Order were taking over, they would all still be here. These spirits, the Dracos, this group, they wouldn't have just been taken away.
Yeah.
I'd be dead. I would have been dead years ago. And that shows to me that we are really literally going into the golden age of Gaia. I mean, I see it over and over again. I get frustrated, but I see it a lot.
It just, I really do see the progress. I just feel like for all of us, it's been a long road, and we're just kind of getting tired of, let's just have it done.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole, we have to have progress, and we have to, it's just a matter of our awareness level, or that sort of thing. It's people like yourself where you've seen it day in, day out. You're totally committed to it. You know what's going on. You're fully aware that there's this battle going on, and you just want it done.
Boy, yeah, nobody wants to master us more than me. I can guarantee you that. I am so ready.
They're talking about how the first week of March, supposedly there's rumor that the Federal Reserve and the SEC have written up a whole, several pages worth of new regulations and policies about this new monetary system.
Well, they're just going to have to go, because you can't, like you said, people cannot be rehabilitated. I mean, you can't take somebody that rapes and murders children and tell them, okay, well, this is what you need to do to be a nice guy. I've said for years, it takes a special type of person, male and female, to be involved in these human sacrifices. They're not going to change. They have to be removed, period.
Totally. And I don't even think that, that's a good question to ask you before you go. These beings that participate in these child sacrifices, how much percentage of human are they? Are they percentage human?
Well, it really varies. It varies a huge amount. I've seen like 97% reptilian, 3% human.
Okay.
A real common number is 58% reptilian, 42% human.
Okay.
There were some around here this weekend that I think were 68. The CIA agents, let me pull up CIA, 68%. Yeah, okay. Most of them that were the 400 plus CIA agents, but they were just like hired. They weren't like living, in the suburbs with their wife or whatever.
So it's the same kind of thing, Tory, where if they have over 50% of that reptilian energy or whatever going on, then they may not typically have the capacity to be rehabilitated.
Well, see, I don't know how that's.
You should go ask them. Go ask them that and let me know.
I'll have to work on that. But I've heard things like it's going to take 1,000 years for some people to work their karma off. And for a while, I got the message that God was just going to basically split the earth. And then that everybody that has 51% more or sacred light goes to the new earth. The Christians call that the rapture. And then the dark entities will go off to. But you know what? Come to think of it, one of my Hollywood girlfriends, she had come to me. I haven't really been in contact with a lot of people lately because things gotten really rough. And I can't mention her name, but she was asking me if she could take her money with her. And I said yes. But she didn't ask where she'd be going. And she came back later after she had heard what was going to happen. And she said, well, you told me I could take my money with you. And I said, well, yeah, if you're going to the dark earth. Is that what you want to do? Because a lot of these people in Hollywood are Illuminati. Like that movie that Tom Cruise did with the eyes wide shut. That's
such a creepy movie.
That's literally the truth.
That was such a creepy movie.
I could sit down here and give you a list of 100 actors that have killed a child.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my focus is on the politicians.
Right.
And but I would say our little is growing up because she changed a lot, and she turned around and gave $2 million to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Right on. She did some research, and she decided she wanted to be a better person. And like the $2 million, to me, it would be like donating $200. if I live on, a couple $100s a month, I would give $200 to a charity. That's what giving $2 million to her was like. I mean, well, I don't know how much.
The only thing is, Tory, I'm not saying that I'm not grateful, but come on already. Most of us are sitting here scratching our heads, wondering, with $2 million, if you gave that to an alternative, free energy entrepreneur or an alternative
but most of them can't. And she did this after Lucifer and Satan were gone, and she really took a big risk doing it because so many people in Hollywood get killed. That's what happened to Paul Walker. Paul Walker didn't really understand what the Illuminati was and joined. Then when he found out what it was, he was like, I don't want this in my life, so they killed him. And Michael Hastings from the Rolling Stones magazine,
right,
when he was exposing all that. Most people get killed because they haven't set up their contract. It's just an instant decision. They say, hey, wait a minute, I don't like these people. I don't want to be involved in a club that rapes and murders children. I quit. And they're like, no, you don't, die. So almost everybody, like almost every police officer that is starting to investigate Illuminati is killed.
Wow.
Almost every police officer that wants to do something about child trafficking is killed. And because the Illuminati owns all the police, all of them. And so they are not allowed to speak out so that's why, so I don't blame people.
Wow.
It's like I told another friend of mine who, and she's real small in this lifetime, except for certain body parts. And she's what I would call a petite woman. And she and her family are on TV every day. But when I did a reading for her, and we were sitting at the table and everything, and I was like, oh my God, is that you? And I could see her. She was a queen running a spaceship, and she had like thousands and thousands of people, and she was in control, and she had this big headdress with either like aquamarine crystals or blue sapphires.
Beautiful.
And I just went into shock because she must have been like 3 feet taller at least in that lifetime. And I was like, oh my God, you're so big. Well, it pissed her off because I said that. But she turned out to be one of the few people in my life that's come in to stand up for me. She came to see me one time and a lot of bad stuff was going on. And she stood up to the bad guys and said, leave him alone. You better leave him alone right now. And I was so flabbergasted.
Wow.
And, we should do a Hollywood celebrity. There's so much drama going on out there, but I can talk for days about my girlfriends. Hollywood.
Tory, you're a hoot.
Oh, thanks,
Well,
honey.
I'm sure everybody's going to enjoy this interview. There's always good little morsels of information. And please take care of yourself. I hope you get a really nice rest tonight. You look exhausted, by the way.
I am absolutely
so tired.
exhausted. I think my nose, it was almost starting to go again, but I hope it's not. But
no.
I'm ready to.
And
we're gone, so.
Yeah, I am happy to hear that the weapons are going to be a little bit easier, right, for you?
Well, they still have them, like the CIA still has them, and then also Northcom, which is that secret military, Northern Command, or whatever they're called. See, I don't remember them a couple of the higher ups, like the leader or whatever they call it, the 5-star general, or they all have those, Macho Boy titles, which I think are ridiculous. But they've come in from Northcom, but now they've sent in this weekend soldiers, like the bottom of the rung from Northcom. They've never been in here before. So there's a lot of things that have happened that's never happened before.
What a trip.
The lowest levels, and these people that have never traveled this way. And so it's just been, there's so many things that have happened this week that never happened before.
Good.
But they still have weapons, like the CIA still has them, the FBI. And not all the FBI is bad. I think it was, when I checked, it was only like 15% of FBI agents are involved in child trafficking and human sacrifices.
What about CIA? A big article came out the other day that the CIA is now officially of the light. And I just kind of...
Well, I can tell you one thing. There's not a single human that works for the CIA. Not a single one of us.
Wow.
I mean, 100% human. Not one.
Wow.
But I could probably do a scan. Let me clear myself out. I'd like to pull up quantity of DNA of CIA employees that have sacred light over 50%. 0.
Oh my
that have over 37%. 0. What percentage are 0 and what percentage are 37%? 97% CIA DNA is 0% sacred light. There we go. And of course, when I do stuff like that, I don't normally do things live because I don't think, is anybody here? No, see, nobody's in the house. Because see, my hands, when I check for people in the house, my hands bounce if there's nobody here, and they stay the same if they are, because then we immediately do that. And that works really well. If you even see a demon or a ghost or whatever that freaks you out, I bind you in the name of Father God, or I bind you in the name of heaven, I bind you in the name of Mother God. Go right to the top, and it freezes them.
Excellent.
That's something anybody can do.
Excellent.
And so,
good tip.
But not all the FBI's bad.
Right on.
The CIA, yeah, they're I read that thing Ben Fulford put out that he said that they were on lockdown.
Yes.
There's so many people. You know what? Maybe I could pull up how many people are aware of MyLab child trafficking today. What percentage increase versus 1 year ago?
Good question.
62%. That's 6 or 8. 62. Yes. Because sometimes 6s look like 8s. So I always like to go back and check. And if it's important, I go back and check again. You know, like when I reported all that stuff in Paris when it turned out to be MI6, and then that was kind of funny. So that's another one that pissed him off because that guy David Cameron was the one that set that whole thing up, and then I put it online. Oh, and he came in, you know, traveling the way they usually do, and he was just so angry. And then this other MI6 agent, well, there's MI6 and MI5. It took him weeks to set that up, and I'm like, why do I care? You know what I mean?
Why do I care?
You just want to rape and murder people and create all this nonsense. Oh, they were so upset. But, yeah, because there wasn't a single, I think what they're calling it Muslim, there wasn't a single Muslim involved. And then there were a lot of guys that I call them very unkempt because they're like really gnarly hairdos and funky beards or whatever, and they're dirty and they don't look like they bathed for a long time and wear diapers on their heads. And all of them involved in that were trained at the MyLab in Essex. I call it the South Essex MyLab in London, in London, but it turned out to be Essex Road. The MyLab is 3 stories down Essex Road on the south-hand side, and that's where they took these dark-skinned guys who people assume they're Muslims, and they took them in there, and then they did the whole brainwashing thing. And so, you know, what's really dangerous about that, because people who are angry, and a lot of people over there are just angry and pissed off because they've just been violated so many times, the people don't have a strong connection to God are easily manipulated.
Yeah.
Those are the ones they use as terrorists because a lot of them don't have any sacred light anyway, and they can just be easily molded. And then, you know, the archons and everybody else doing their gnarly mind stuff on them. That it's just very easy for them. But a lot of that's coming to an end. But, you know, I feel sorry for people, but yet people make the choice to be devoid of the divine. You know what I mean? It's like I was an agnostic person for years, but I was also being manipulated by the archons. They started on me when I was 5 years old.
Right.
And so,
well,
you know,
and you know what?
So,
here's the thing. We have to stay on track and remember to keep saying, I command that all beings of darkness that are oppressing, raping, killing anything or anyone are removed from the planet that's time. And also I command that all dark technology and all weaponry that's being used against all of us would be removed immediately. Come on, folks, we can do this. I'm serious. Like, I call on everybody out there. I hope anybody who hears this interview, please, even if you just do it once, it's going to make a difference.
Oh, yeah. Or if you want to, and then once you say that and you declare your intention, you can really shorten it up. Like one of my favorite ones is thank you, universe, for removing child trafficking and eliminating the people involved. Perfect. Thank you for ending human sacrifices and eliminating the people involved. You know, perfect. Thank you for ending the war crimes. Just, you know what I mean? So
yes.
If you want to say it more than once, I mean, that was very beautiful and elegant, but it'd be difficult to say that 100 times a day. But you can just be thankful to the universe. And the more you generate that thanks that this is over, the faster it'll come to be. But I know we're close.
Okay, so you heard it from the guy that does it all the time. And actually, you know, the bottom line is just if you're thinking about it, just do it. Make it simple, short, sweet, make it work for you. That's all that counts.
Yeah. You know? That's the best way. Do it your way.
Yeah, do it your way. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. You know, and it's funny. When we were talking, I could see us in Atlantis. They have these huge crystals. Well, a lot of people lived inside crystals in Atlantis. But there was this really big park, and some of the crystals were like 20, 30 feet across and just growing out of the ground. And we used to do healing ceremonies. Like people would go out and about or whatever and come back all beaten up gnarly like I am now. But we used to work together in Atlantis
I thought
and
so.
doing healing work, and people would come in, and it would be like an open park in modern terms, and we would do healing work for them, and then they'd feel a lot better, and it was just like, oh, good for you, have a nice day.
Nice.
That was one of our lifetimes together. And we had another one in France, but I just know that's it. Because I lived 41 years in Paris. I'm like, yeah, too bad it's not now. Not that I don't love Indiana, but
I'm going to tell everybody before we go, I am convinced that Tory is Tristan of the Knights Templar. Convinced. Go check it out. Go read it. Go read him up, and you guys tell me what you think. Anyway. Okay, well, thank you so much. And everybody, just once again, please send him some support and love and light. He really needs it right now. And stay tuned for next week. I've got some really cool guests coming up. I've got Jay Essex coming next week, if you haven't already heard about him. And I think I'm going to be interviewing Barbara Lamb the week after that. So take care. Lots of love. Stay tuned, because a lot of cool things are happening, and we are winning! Woo!
Thank you so much, dear.
Okay, everybody, take care. And as always, please visit my website at galacticconnection.com. Daily blog page every day. Lots of changes going on. And as usual, check out my essences and the implant removal series. Lots of love, and you guys have a great week. Take care. Bye.